Do you ever want to dive deeper into the Bible, but you just don't know where to begin, or struggle to feel like you even have the time? When you read the Bible, do you get frustrated because you know there's so much more in there? You just have no clue how to get it out? Or maybe you want to know the Bible better, and you're looking for any resource to help. Then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the Context and Color of the Bible. We're sisters. I'm Veronica.
I'm Erica.
And we love to study the Bible, and we love to help others understand it better. When it comes to our own study of Scripture, we have found that in bringing back the context of Scripture, it adds so much to our understanding. It actually adds color to the black and white pages of the text. All right, we are back in the studio with our favorite, most popular guest.
How many guests do you have?
Well, we had Rachel from Links to Messiah.
Oh, yes.
And we have more guests coming.
And we have more guests coming later this summer.
They're coming. Okay.
1. 2. Oh, yeah, hopefully I forgot about, yeah. So
Ooh.
that means Eric and I are sharing a mic,
Surprise.
which is why she's whispering so far away. She's literally like 6 inches from me, but the mic just makes her sound far away. But I had to wring Bryan's arm, kind of, to say, please.
I know. Still recovering.
I know. So rough. Well, no, because you're done and over with Daniel, truthfully. Oh, I was going to look and see when we started Daniel with you.
That would be interesting.
I know. 2 years? 3 years?
Yeah, it's been scattered.
Yes. Yeah, and even when we recorded Daniel 3, 4, 5, and 6, we didn't even do that in order.
Yeah. It'd be fun to like reshuffle them back into
That's
correct
what I'm
order.
going to try to figure out how to do.
Yeah.
So then you can get it all at once.
Yeah.
But right now, the easiest way to get it in real time, this is April. This isn't going out till June. But right now, go to the website, click on podcast, scroll down until you see Daniel, and then all of them are right there.
And
So.
any of the new ones, I'm sure will
Yes,
show
and
up
all
too.
the new ones will be there too. So Bryan's here. Because it's summer, we like to keep them shorter. Because it's Bryan, we really like to keep it shorter. So it's not going to be an hour. We're breaking it into 3 parts.
Sounds
Correct?
good. Yep.
Okay, that's what he told me earlier. I'm not being bossy. I'm taking his orders. So Bryan's going to set the stage for Daniel chapter 1.
Okay. So let me just read the first couple verses. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the articles from the temple. And then he, Nebuchadnezzar, carried off to the temple of his own God in Babylon and put the treasures in the house of his God. And so a lot of names and information and dates. And I thought, man, these 2 verses are a good intro, because what they do in the book of Daniel is they set, here's the timescape, and here's at least one of the main people we're going to be involved with. Jehoiakim really doesn't feature into Daniel so much, but Nebuchadnezzar does. So we know chapter 1 of Daniel is the prelude, and then it kicks off the Nebuchadnezzar arc. We've talked about 2, 3, 4. So he's definitely big. And then in chapter 5 with King Potty Pants, it looks back to Nebuchadnezzar as a reference point and a comparison, and how King Belshazzar is trying to compare himself. So anyways, intro. This is what I think is good to just lay the context. This is a tumultuous period in the ancient Near Eastern history. These couple verses, you don't get the sense of it's the shifting of empires are happening right at this point. So before Babylon became the big dog, the cat nation, you guys talk about mice and cat nations, right? So Judah, Israel, they were a mouse nation. In the ancient Near East, you've got Egypt, and then you've got Assyria and Babylon. Those were kind of the 3 cat nations. Israel strategically, geographically placed right in the middle of all of them. And so from 900 BC to 600 BC, Assyria was the bully, the cat nation. They were in control of the ancient Near East. And they had lots of skirmishes back and forth between Assyria and Egypt. So if you're kind of imagining the map of the Middle East in your mind, you'd have Assyria as kind of in northern Iraq, and Egypt is still in Egypt. And those armies were going back and forth through Israel throughout the course of hundreds of years. But just before these verses we've read, the tides start shifting. So 612 was the fall of Nineveh. So that's about 10 years before what we've just read. So Nineveh and Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, was falling. Assyria was falling apart at the seams. And crisis brings strange bedfellows. They, in their final death throes of that empire, they reached out to Egypt for help. Like
Their
Egypt,
former enemy?
Their former enemy. Like, we need to get help. And so that's when Egypt starts sending up reinforcements. And who's the king of Judah that goes to try and stop Egypt from coming to the aid of Assyria?
Say it louder.
Josiah.
That's when Josiah comes in, and Josiah loses his life, and as a result of those actions, and the battle doesn't go so well. But Egypt, on their way back, is pretty ticked at Judah, and Josiah has passed away. They put Josiah's son Jehoahaz on the throne, and this is where it gets confusing, because the end of Kings, it feels like it's new king, new king, new king. What's going on here at the end of the nation of Judah? Egypt's coming back. They take Jehoahaz back with them as a captive. They put Jehoiakim, who we just read about, on the throne.
Oh.
So Jehoiakim is a Egyptian puppet king.
But he's an Israelite.
He's an Israelite. He's one of Josiah's sons.
Oh.
He's the second son, I believe, unless there was another one in between that didn't take the throne. So Josiah dies. His first son takes the throne, Jehoahaz. He's taken captive by Egypt, who's ticked at Judah for their actions. And actually, they also kind of take a lot of riches and tribute forced in addition to taking the king down to Egypt. They put their own puppet king on the throne. And not only is he an Egyptian puppet king, but that also means he's against the enemies of Assyria. And who was Assyria and Egypt fighting with in this battle? Babylon.
Okay.
Led by the forces of Nebuchadnezzar's father. And Nebuchadnezzar, I'm sure, was involved. So that's the Jehoiakim we're talking about here. And
so would you put him as a God-honoring king?
No.
Okay.
He was not
He really
good.
was in cahoots with Egypt.
And he was bad. Like, he was very... the historical commentary on him, he was nothing like his father. He was very anti-God, very...
Set up the high places, built the shrines, all that wonderful stuff.
Awful to Jeremiah and the real prophets. And it definitely played out like I'm sure he was pretty well in alignment with Egypt, which is why he was selected. So that's I believe that was 609, and then 605 we come to the Battle of Carchemish, where now it's another engagement. And this time Assyria loses, and almost like it's basically the end of Assyria at this point. And following that military action, Nebuchadnezzar leads his forces down through Judah and encounters this King Jehoiakim. He's on the throne. As Daniel says, it was, the third year of his reign. And now Nebuchadnezzar, I'm sure, has a few words to say to him, because he's like, you're not on my side.
Mm-hmm.
And so what does he do? Well, he takes the temple implements. He's taking tribute. He's basically forcing, you give me some goods, so I'll leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they basically have to buy him off. And this is Nebuchadnezzar. He's establishing his control in the region. It's like, I'm top dog now. Sorry, mixing metaphors. The cats and the dog. I'm the bully here now. Egypt's not strong enough to keep him back. Assyria is gone. Like, they're done at this point. And Babylon is now the new rising power. So this is all happening within a span of 4 or 5 years, where the most powerful empire in the Middle East is done, and a new most powerful has just risen. And this is all, God's plan unfolding. And here, little tiny Judah is in the middle of all of this. Geographically, historically, theologically, they're here. But I'm sure Nebuchadnezzar kind of had his sights set on Egypt, but lo and behold, his father dies. And in those instances where the reigning king dies, you have to be, it is time.
There's our clock. We'll just keep going. It's fine. Well, you can go turn it off. We will acknowledge it and just go, if you hear it.
Musical interlude.
Yes, it works. All right.
So in the ancient world, even I think in the Middle Ages, when the king passes away, the next in line, you need to establish yourself quickly.
Right.
And here,
that's the perfect time for someone to come in and steal the throne and undermine you.
There were several potential people wanting to kind of sneak in there. And so Nebuchadnezzar, he's all the way over in modern day Israel. And you can't hop a flight to get back to Babylon, which is southern Iraq. And you can't go straight either. You have to go up and around. So he has to hurry his way back and doesn't kind of finish I'm sure the business he was hoping to do. But in doing this, he's taken some tribute from all the nations, and he's also taken some hostages, which we're going to read about shortly here. But this is the backdrop here. And I wanted to point out in verse 2, it's interesting. It says that the Lord, I think in the ESV, the Lord gave Jehoiakim into his hands, along with some of the articles of the temple. And that was just an interesting word to me. It's like showing God is moving and active in this situation. He's handing over this. And it really starts to introduce the theme that's huge throughout the book of Daniel, is who's in charge of the cosmic flow of history. And that theme shows over and over and over, because the book of Daniel is really about the movement of nations. You've got the first half of the book is about Daniel's actual experiences, and then the last half is these visions that talk about the nations that rise and fall even after Babylon. And here we get these little glimpses that Daniel's already introducing. Like, this incident didn't just happen. God gave this king into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. And let's talk a minute too about the temple treasury that's taken. So why do you think Nebuchadnezzar took these elements?
To me, it says, I'm stronger than your God. If these were gifts you gave your God, well, I'm stronger. I can take what's his.
What, say Nebuchadnezzar, not Israel, but what about the other nations? What would he have extracted from them?
Probably the same thing from their temples of just gathering. Oh, Erica's got a thought.
Oh, I think I remember this. He would have taken their idols
Yes.
Their gods to put back
Yep.
in his temple, but Israel doesn't have idols
Correct.
in the temple, or they're not supposed to.
So yeah, you're both right. The typical strategy is you go in, you conquer a territory, you take their idols, their temple gods, you parade them all the way back home as a way of showing my dominance. Like, we've dominated you. These are our trophies of war. But it was also more than just like medals or trophies. These, which they certainly were to a certain extent, but these are your gods. These are the things you've put your faith in, your hope in, you've bowed down, you're sacrificing animals to these. And what does it mean? Like, they're on the shoulders of my troops as we're carrying them off. And they're going into my temple treasury.
It's demoralizing as a people.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, you all united around worshiping this statue, this god, and we just took it.
Yeah.
You people are nothing compared to us. So you just see how that just, in a way, it brings the whole nation down. It's another way to rub it in. We won, and you're the losers.
Yeah. And Nebuchadnezzar, imagine this. He goes into Jerusalem. He's like, give me your idols. And they're like, we don't have any. And he's like, whatever. And marches into the temple, pulls back the curtain, and there's no idols.
Was the Ark of the Covenant gone by then?
Potentially.
Okay.
That's where, the Indiana Jones stories and all that. Had it already left.
I mean, that would be the closest thing.
The closest
if there
thing.
was something to take, that's what he would take.
Probably. And it doesn't mention that he took it. So maybe it was already hidden, taken away. I don't know. So what does he grab?
Whatever's around.
The next best thing. Okay, well, these implements are used in your temple. I'm going to grab them. At least I'm getting some gold and silver and something worthwhile. May not be as cool as a statue of Baal, but these things are my trophy. And that still would have had some meaning to the Israelites, I'm sure. But what are those implements? What is one of their most potent characteristics?
They were all holy and set apart.
They were holy. And what happens when holy meets unholy?
It needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Yeah, death, or, I mean, if you're not, that's why you haven't, the Day of Atonement every year is kind of re-cleansing, re-purifying everything, setting it apart again, going, because sin contaminates, death contaminates. And now it's just getting mixed in with all kinds of death and contamination.
And when something's like, imagine something that's like uber holy and it's being brought out, like it's like matter and antimatter potentially colliding. And so this kind of sets up a cliffhanger that isn't dealt with specifically here, but does come back into play in chapter 5.
Well, that's what I was just thinking. It's kind of the foreshadowing of, hey, don't forget, this is important for later.
So holiness, that's another theme that shows up specifically here in chapter 1. What happens when a holy implement or a holy people is brought into an unholy land, and how does that play out?
And can you maintain that holiness?
And so maybe this is a good cliffhanger for the next episode, because it's not just the implements that are brought into Babylon, but also some people. And so that's what we talk about in the next episode, I think.
Yeah, I like that. Because really you go, it's only 2 verses, but there's so much of setting the stage, of just thinking, this is when we get to Daniel and his friends next week, of just, here's what they've been through, here's what they've been dealing with for the last several years, watching. And you would go, okay, our God wasn't strong enough. We watched our temple get looted. It would definitely put some question marks in your mind of, what are we doing? Who's stronger? What's happening? Where's our king? Why is he with Egypt? I mean, all of just the mental turmoil they are in is they're heading into captivity next week. So But what I like about this is also just, I was telling Bryan before we started recording of, it takes the Bible and goes, hey, don't forget, this is real stories.
This is
and
real.
You can put it in the world timeline, because so often I feel like we have a Bible timeline and then a rest of the world timeline, and I don't always see where those overlap.
Yeah.
So this is a fun one to go, okay, get your kids around. If you teach Sunday school or something and go, look, here's the real world timeline you learn at school. Let me throw Daniel in there.
Yep.
Where is this setting
It
up?
fits.
So don't forget, you can always check out our social media. We have Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. We would love to hear from you, and have a good day.